Hey guys, settle in. Tonight we're not just diving into history, we're stepping back in time, right into the skin of someone who lived centuries ago. So dim the lights. Maybe light a candle if you are feeling adventurous, or just let the gentle hum of your fan soothe you. Find that comfortable spot and let your mind drift with me. And as you get cozy, let me know in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is for you. A quick like and subscribe if you find yourself genuinely enjoying these quiet journeys into the past would mean the world. Tonight, we're exploring a world where cleanliness was a foreign concept, where survival meant embracing the grimy, the gritty, and the utterly horrifying by modern standards. We're going to explore 100 horrifying hygiene standards you had to endure in the Middle Ages. Prepare to feel a profound gratitude for your modern bathroom. The first thing you notice as your eyes flutter open, stirred by the faint light seeping through the gaps in the wattle and daub walls, is not the warmth of a clean, soft pillow, but the familiar, slightly rough texture of the straw mattress beneath your cheek. Your bed is not a haven of crisp linen, but a collection of dried plant matter, perpetually shedding tiny fragments that cling to your hair and clothing. As you push yourself up, a faint, almost imperceptible film seems to peel away from your skin, a residue that has settled over you during the long, cold night. This isn't the fresh feeling of morning dew. It is the layer of soot and grease that has become a second skin. Your home, a simple, single room, dwelling shared with your family, and perhaps a few small animals, lacks the luxury of a sealed fireplace. Instead, the hearth in the center of the room, a vital source of warmth in the heart of your cooking, sends its smoky tendrils upwards, not through a proper chimney, but through a small opening in the roof. This means that every breath you take, every moment spent indoors, is an intimate communion with the byproduct of burning wood. Microscopic particles of soot dance in the weak shafts of morning light that pierce the gloom, a constant, shimmering veil. They cling to the rough, hewn timbers of your walls, coating them in a slick, dark patina. They settle on your few humble possessions, a fine gray dust that defies all attempts at removal. And most intimately they adhere to your skin, weaving themselves into the natural oils, creating a persistent, almost metallic scent that you no longer consciously register. You run a finger across your cheek, and the sensation is not smooth, but subtly grainy, a testament to the night's accumulation. This isn't just dirt, it is a protective layer, or so the common wisdom of your time suggests. In an age devoid of germ theory, where the unseen forces of disease were attributed to foul air and divine displeasure, the notion that your body's natural oils, fortified by a fine coating of the world's dust and smoke, acted as a barrier against illness was widely accepted. To scrub it all away, to expose your delicate skin to the raw elements, would be an act of recklessness, an invitation for ailments to seep in. There's a strange, almost comforting weight to this layer, a feeling of being shielded, cocooned from the invisible threats that constantly lurk in the air. The air itself carries a permanent, faint whiff of char and wood smoke, a smell so ingrained in your daily existence that it is simply the smell of home. It is a scent that permeates your clothing, your hair, even the rudimentary food you eat. In the early hours, as you rise from your straw bed, the first rays of sun, if they manage to penetrate the perpetual haze, illuminate countless motes of dust swirling in the air, a silent, slow motion, blizzard of organic matter and soot particles. You inhale them, Exhale them, a continuous, unspoken exchange with your environment. Your fingertips, when they brush against your forehead or the back of your hand, feel a persistent, almost velvety roughness. A fine, gritty film that seems to be an intrinsic part of your being. This layer of soot and grease isn't just a physical presence. It is a psychological one, a constant reminder of the raw, unvarnished reality of your medieval life. A testament to the belief that the natural, however unkempt, was often the safest. As the first light strengthens, painting the interior of your humble dwelling in muted tones, your attention turns, perhaps instinctively, to your mouth. The lingering taste from the meager supper of last night. A thick pottage is still present, a slightly sour, stale sensation that coats your tongue. There are no porcelain sinks, no gleaming faucets, no minty toothpastes, or bristled brushes in your world. The concept of oral hygiene as we understand it simply doesn't exist, replaced by a set of rudimentary practices born of necessity and superstition. You might reach for a small, coarse scrap of linen, perhaps a piece torn from an old tunic or a discarded cloth. This isn't a soft, absorbent towel. It is a rough, unyielding fabric, designed for durability rather than gentleness. Dipping it into a small bowl of water, likely cold and drawn from the nearby well or river, you might then sprinkle a pinch of salt onto it, or perhaps a tiny amount of charred herb powder, if your family is fortunate enough to possess such a luxury. The salt is abrasive, the burnt herbs believed to have cleansing properties. With this makeshift tool, you begin to rub at your teeth and gums. The sensation is far from pleasant. The coarse linen grates against your gums, a dull, persistent ache that can sometimes draw a tiny bead of blood. It's an act of friction, a raw attempt to dislodge any visible food particles, to scrape away the obvious film that accumulates overnight. You work at it, not with the precision of a modern dentist, but with the pragmatic determination of someone merely trying to manage the discomfort. The salt stings any small cuts or inflammations, a sharp, momentary pain that quickly fades into a general soreness. The taste in your mouth becomes a strange blend of the metallic tang of salt, the bitter earthiness of the charred herbs, and the underlying persistent flavor of yesterday's food, and the natural decay that is an inevitable part of your existence. The persistent ache in your teeth, the dull throb that occasionally flares into a sharp, excruciating pain, is not attributed to plaque or cavities. Instead, the prevailing belief, one that has been passed down through generations, is that your tooth pain is caused by the dreaded toothworm. This invisible, insidious creature, believed to burrow into the very core of your teeth, gnawing away at the sensitive flesh within, is the culprit for all dental woes. There's no understanding of bacteria or acids, only the fear of this unseen predator. Treatments for the toothworm are as varied as they are ineffective, fumigating the mouth with smoke from burning herbs, applying poultices of crushed insects, or even attempting to draw the worm out with incantations. The idea of simply cleaning your teeth to prevent such a torment is alien. Why would scrubbing remove a worm? To combat the undeniable and often severe problem of halitosis, the pervasive stench of decaying teeth and gum disease, you might resort to chewing on strong spices. Cloves, if you can afford them, or more commonly, parsley, mint, or other pungent herbs, are your best defense. As you chew, the powerful essential oils and sharp flavors momentarily overwhelm the foul odor emanating from your mouth, offering a brief respite. The taste is intense, a fiery burst of flavor that momentarily distracts from the underlying unpleasantness. But it is a temporary masking, a superficial covering over a deeper, more entrenched issue. The sensation of the coarse linen, the stinging salt, the strange mix of decay and spice in your mouth, is a daily reminder of a hygiene standard where managing symptoms is the only option, and the true causes of discomfort remain a terrifying invisible mystery. After the rudimentary morning rituals, if they can even be called that, your thoughts might turn to the most fundamental element of life, and paradoxically one of the most feared, water. In your medieval world, water, particularly warm water, is not seen as a source of cleanliness and purification, but rather as a potential harbinger of death. This deeply ingrained fear stems from the prevailing medical theories of the time, theories that dictate your understanding of health, illness, and survival. The core belief, passed down from ancient texts and reinforced by centuries of observation or misinterpretation, is that hot water opens the pores of the skin. And open pores, in the absence of germ theory, are not a pathway for cleansing, but a gaping vulnerability. They are believed to allow the invisible noxious vapors of the air thaw, the dreaded miasma, Soot, to enter the body. Miasma, the bad air, believed to be responsible for plagues, fevers, and all manner of diseases, is your constant, unseen enemy. To voluntarily open your body to its insidious influence by taking a warm bath would be an act of profound foolishness, a direct invitation for sickness to take root. Therefore, not washing your entire body is not a sign of neglect. It is a conscious, rational, and deeply responsible survival strategy. It is a testament to your understanding of how the world works, a protective measure against the very forces that could extinguish your life. To keep your pores sealed, to maintain the protective barrier of your skin, thigh-on-D, that layer of soot, grease, and natural oils, TB, is paramount. The idea of immersing yourself in a tub of warm water, allowing the steam to rise and your skin to soften, fills you not with anticipation of refreshment, but with an instinctive, almost primal dread. So, your interactions with water are minimal and strategic. Each morning you might dip your hands into a basin of cold water, perhaps drawn from the well or even from the water butt that collects rainwater. The shock of the cold is bracing, a quick jolt to wake the senses. You splash a little on your face, rubbing away the sleep from your eyes, a quick and superficial cleanse. This is the extent of your daily ablutions. Your hands and face, the parts of you most exposed to the world, are the only areas deemed safe or necessary. To wash, the rest of your body, however, may not touch water for months or even years. The thought of fully submerging yourself, of scrubbing away the accumulated layers of dirt, sweat, and grime from your limbs and torso, is simply not considered. You learn to live with the sensation of perpetually dry skin, sometimes flaky, sometimes tight. You become accustomed to the subtle, earthy scent of your own unwashed body, a smell that is indistinguishable from the smell of everyone around you. There is a strange, paradoxical sense of security in this state of unwashedness. Each clogged pore, each layer of accumulated grime, feels like a tiny shield, a microscopic fortress against the invisible threats that float in the air. This deep-seated aversion to water, born from a profound misunderstanding of medicine, dictates a fundamental aspect of your daily life, making the simple act of bathing a perilous gamble and cleanliness a luxury you cannot afford. For fear it might cost you your very life. The pervasive fear of water, that chilling belief that opening your pores invited the very pestilence you sought to avoid, meant that true cleanliness, as we understand it, was a foreign concept. But humans, even in the darkest corners of the Middle Ages, possessed an innate desire for some semblance of order, some feeling of fresh beginnings. And so, a rather ingenious, if ultimately ineffective, solution was devised to bridge the gap between the unwashed body and the need for a fresh start: a humble linen shift. Imagine a world where your daily bath isn't a soak in warm water, but rather the act of changing your innermost layer of clothing. This wasn't just a practical necessity. It was a deeply ingrained belief, a substitute ritual for the forbidden act of bathing. Your rough linen schnift, or chemise, or shirt, depending on your gender and station, was your personal sponge, your silent, absorbent guardian against the perceived evils of the unwashed self. This wasn't the soft, breathable linen we know today. Oh no, this was a coarse, unbleached fabric, often woven from flax, designed not for comfort but for utility. It was believed that this rough weave, this sturdy barrier, possessed almost magical properties. As you went about your day, laboring in the fields, haggling in the market, or simply existing within the smoky confines of your home, your body would naturally perspire. And with that perspiration, it was thought, came the impurities, the humors, the very toxins that your body needed to expel. The linen, in this medieval worldview, was a porous, diligent servant, drawing these noxious elements away from your skin, absorbing them into its fibers, and thus, theoretically, cleansing you. Feel it now, the heavy, somewhat scratchy texture against your skin. It is not a gentle caress. It is a constant, subtle friction. As the hours turn into days and the days into weeks, this fabric, once a pale, almost pristine white, begins its slow, inevitable transformation. It absorbs not just sweat, but the faint, lingering scent of the charcoal and ash from the hearth, the earthy dampness of the floor, the subtle animal musk of the livestock often sharing your living space, and of course the undeniable aroma of your own unwashed body. For the wealthy, this ritual was a daily affair, sometimes even more frequent. A lady of the manor might have several shifts, each meticulously hand-stitched, ready to be donned after a quick dry wipe down with a cloth. The servants would whisk away the soiled linen, boiling it vigorously with lye and ashes, then beating it against rocks in the river, before spreading it on the grass to bleach under the sun. This was their version of laundry day, a labor, intensive process that provided a fresh, if still somewhat stiff, garment for the next day. The sensation of slipping into a freshly laundered shift, even if the body beneath remained unbathed, would have been a moment of exquisite, if fleeting, comfort, a small luxury in a world devoid of many. But for the vast majority, for the peasants and the serfs, the luxury of frequent changes was simply unthinkable. Your single linen shift was often your only one, or perhaps you had two, one for wear, one for the rare occasion it could be washed. Imagine wearing the same garment, day in, day out, for weeks, for months, perhaps even through the entirety of a long, brutal winter. The fabric, initially stiff, would gradually soften, then stiffen again with dried sweat, then soften once more as it absorbed the accumulated grime. It would begin to take on the contours of your body, molding itself to your form not unlike a second skin. The pale linen would yellow, then darken, first with faint smudges, then with undeniable patches of grime. The areas around the neck, under the arms, and along the hem would become particularly saturated, almost black with accumulated dirt, grease, and dead skin cells. The rough fibers, once merely scratchy, would now feel almost brittle, crackling faintly as you moved. When you finally peeled off such a garment, perhaps at the first sign of warmer weather, or when it became so frayed it could no longer hold together, it would offer a unique sensory experience. The fabric, stiff with dried bodily fluids and countless layers of environmental dust, might feel almost adhesive, clinging to your skin as if reluctant to release its long-held embrace. You might hear the faint rustle of the dried material, a sound like autumn leaves underfoot, as it reluctantly separated from your body. The air for a brief moment would feel cooler, lighter, as if a heavy invisible cloak had been lifted. And the scent. Oh, the scent would be a concentrated testament to weeks, if not months, of unadulterated medieval living. A potent blend of human musk, stale sweat, wood smoke, and the indefinable aroma of accumulated life. This was the linen solution. Not a solution to true cleanliness, but a psychological balm, a practical compromise. It was the medieval equivalent of hitting the refresh button on your personal hygiene, a deeply flawed but universally accepted method of coping with the era's unique relationship with the human body and its secretions. And as you put on your fresh shift, you would carry with you the faint, lingering memory of the old one, a constant reminder of the unseen, as washed layers beneath. From the intimate sphere of your personal linen, let us now turn our attention to the very ground beneath your feet, for it too held a fascinating, if rather horrifying, secret. Forget the polished wooden floors or the neatly tiled surfaces of today. In the Middle Ages, especially for the common folk, and even in many grander halls, the floor was a living, breathing entity, a dynamic ecosystem known as rushes. Imagine stepping out of bed, your feet not meeting a cool, solid surface, but rather a soft, yielding layer of dried plant matter. This was the rush-strewn floor. It began innocently enough, a layer of freshly cut rushes, often mixed with fragrant herbs like lavender, mint, or sweet woodruff, spread generously over the packed earth, or stone base of your home. The initial idea was sound, even pleasant. The rushes provided a degree of insulation against the cold, damp ground. The herbs released a pleasant aroma, masking some of the omnipresent odors of medieval life. It was, in theory, a natural carpet, a rustic air freshener. But here is where the medieval reality diverged sharply from the theoretical ideal. These rushes were not changed frequently. Oh no, they were simply added to. As the days bled into weeks and the weeks into months, new layers of fresh rushes and herbs would be scattered on top of the old, creating an ever-deepening, ever-evolving strata. Think of it less as a carpet and more as a slow-motion archaeological dig, each layer preserving the detritus of the past. Beneath the fresh, green top layer, a different world thrived. The original rushes, once vibrant, would begin their slow descent into decomposition. They would flatten, compact, and absorb. And what they absorbed was truly remarkable. Food scraps, dropped carelessly from the meager meals, would fall between the stalks, becoming trapped. A crust of bread, a stray vegetable peel, a bone-gnawed clean 40, all would sink into the growing matrix. Then there were the animal contributions. Dogs, often allowed free rein within the home, would leave their droppings. Chickens, if you were fortunate enough to own them and they wandered indoors, would add their own offerings. The occasional mouse, scurrying across the floor, might leave a tiny trail. And humans, with their own bodily functions, were equally complicit. Spittle, coughed up phlegm, the occasional spill from a chamber pot not quite making it to the door thudding out, all contributed to the rich, organic tapestry of the floor. As you walked across this floor, your feet would sink slightly into the yielding mass. The top layer might feel crisp and dry, perhaps even pleasantly aromatic from the herbs, but underneath, a softer, spongier sensation would greet your soles. This was the beginning of the compost layer. The dampness from the earth, combined with the organic matter and the warmth of the living space, created ideal conditions for decay. The rushes would begin to ferment, to rot, releasing a distinct earthy, yet subtly acrid odor that blended seamlessly with the general aroma of the household. Imagine the sound of your footsteps, not the firm thud on solid ground, but a softer, muffled crunch, a whisper of dry stalks giving way to a deeper, squishier resistance beneath. Each step would stir up tiny clouds of dust, sivany. Not just ordinary dust, but a fine, particulate mixture of dried plant matter, animal dander, and microscopic fragments of everything that had ever fallen onto that floor. These particles would hang in the air, catching the weak light filtering in through the smoke hole, a constant, silent reminder of the floor's complex composition. This living floor was a haven for a miniature ecosystem. Fleas, already ubiquitous, would find a perfect breeding ground within the warm, protected layers. Mites, silverfinish, and other unseen creepy crawlies would burrow and breed, feasting on the decaying organic matter. Rodents, drawn by the promise of food scraps, would tunnel beneath the rushes, creating intricate networks of passages. It was a world teeming with life, a microcosm of the wild, brought right into the heart of your domestic space. The smell, when you truly focused on it, was a complex symphony. Overlaid with the initial sweetness of the herbs would be the unmistakable scent of damp earth, of fermentation, of stale food, and the faint, persistent tang of animal waste. It wasn't always overtly foul sometimes. It was just a deep, organic richness, a smell that spoke of life and death and decomposition, all happening simultaneously, just inches beneath your bare feet. For the medieval inhabitant, this was simply the way things were. It was the normal state of affairs. The idea of tearing up the entire floor, scrubbing the earth beneath, and laying down fresh rushes was an enormous undertaking, reserved perhaps for a major festival or a rare spring cleaning. Most of the time, you simply learned to live with it, to accept the floor as another member of the household, a silent, ever-growing companion that absorbed the spills, the dirt, and the very essence of your daily existence. It was a floor that truly was alive, and in its own medieval way, it played a vital role in the intricate, often unsanitary, tapestry of daily life. From the teeming life of the floor, let us ascend, if only metaphorically, to the more elevated, though no less primitive, realm of medieval sanitation in a castle, the garderobe. If you were fortunate enough to live within the protective walls of a castle, your toilet experience, while certainly more private than the communal bucket, offered its own unique set of discomforts and sensory peculiarities. Imagine yourself in a grand stone castle, perhaps a lord or lady or a high-ranking servant. When nature calls, you don't seek a discreet corner of the yard or a humble outhouse. Instead, you are directed to a narrow, often dimly lit chamber, tucked away within the thick stone walls. This is the garderobe, a name derived from the French garde, robe, meaning to guard the robes, as it was also a place where clothes were hung. The ammonia fumes from below supposedly deterring fleas and moths. A rather creative, if pungent, dual-purpose design. You step into this small, often unheated room. The air immediately feels different, cooler, with a faint, earthy tang that hints at its true purpose. Your eyes adjust to the gloom, revealing a simple, unadorned stone bench, perhaps with a wooden seat, or sometimes just a smooth, cold slab of rock. And in the middle of this bench, or carved directly into the stone, is a hole. A simple, unceremonious hole. This hole is your gateway to the outside world, or more precisely, to the moat or the ground directly below the castle walls. There is no plumbing, no cistern, no gurgling flush. Only gravity. You sit down or perhaps squat on the cold stone. The chill immediately penetrates your clothing, a stark reminder of the unyielding nature of medieval construction. As you settle, a distinct sensation greets you, a cold draft. This isn't a gentle breeze. It is often a vigorous current of air, rushing upwards from the depths below. It billows around your exposed skin, a chilling embrace that can be quite startling, especially on a frigid winter's day. This draft carries with it not just the cold air, but also faint echoes from the abyss. The distant sounds of the moat, perhaps the croaking of frogs, the splash of water, or the rustling of reeds. If the garderobe empties directly onto the ground, you might hear the faint scuttling of unseen creatures, or the gentle thud of your own contribution joining the growing pile below. The height is another factor. Depending on the castle's architecture, you could be suspended dozens of feet above the ground or water. Looking down into the dark, yawning chasm can induce a slight sense of vertigo, a dizzying awareness of your precarious position. The stone walls around you, rough and unadorned, seem to amplify the sounds from below, creating a strangely resonant acoustic chamber for this most private of acts. When it comes to the practicalities of post-use hygiene, the garderobe offers no luxuries. Forget soft, multiply paper. Your options are far more rustic. You might find a handful of dried hay, coarse and scratching against your skin. Perhaps a bundle of moss, softer, but potentially riddled with unseen inhabitants. In some wealthier establishments, a piece of old cloth or linen might be provided, but these were often reused, simply rinsed and hung to dry. And then there was the communal sponge on a stick, a truly unique medieval innovation, thankfully more common in Roman times but not entirely unheard of in some public facilities or even very large castles. Imagine a sponge attached to a long wooden handle, kept in a bucket of salted water or vinegar. This single sponge would be shared by multiple users, simply rinsed or not between uses. The very thought sends shivers down a modern spine, a testament to the drastically different microbial understanding of the era. The cold draft from below would feel like a welcome cleansing breeze compared to the implications of such an implement. The scent within the garderobe, despite the draft, could still be potent, while the constant airflow helped to carry away some of the immediate odors. The stone walls themselves would absorb the lingering aroma of human waste over centuries. It was a smell that was always present, a subtle undercurrent of ammonia and decay, a constant reminder of the raw, unfiltered realities of medieval living. As you finish your business, you might stand up, feeling the residual chill on your skin, and perhaps a strange sense of detachment. The garderobe, for all its primitive nature, was a testament to medieval ingenuity in its own way. A simple gravity-fed system that, for all its flaws, did manage to remove human waste from the immediate living quarters, albeit by simply relocating it to the outside. And as you step back into the main castle, the warmth and the relative freshness of the air feel like a small luxury, a temporary reprieve from the cold, echoing reality of the garderobe's draft. You awaken to the faint, persistent scent of last night's decisions. Not just your own, but those of your entire household neatly contained. For now, in the ceramic or wooden chamber pot tucked discreetly beneath your straw mattress. It has been a long night, and the pot has served its purpose. A silent, vital companion through the darkness. Its presence is a given, an unquestioned part of the rhythm of life in the year 1325. There is no plumbing, no distant gurgle of a cistern, no porcelain throne awaiting your morning visit. There is only this vessel, and the promise of the day's first, most immediate ritual. As the sun begins to paint the edges of your small, windowless hut, casting long, dusty shadows across the packed earth floor, you rise. The air inside is thick, heavy with the accumulated breaths of your family, the livestock, and the subtle, earthing aroma of the chamber pot. It's a familiar scent, not pleasant but not shocking either. Merely an accepted part of your existence. You carefully retrieve the pot, its weight a testament to the night's activity. The ceramic is cool against your hands, perhaps a little damp from condensation. The contents slosh gently, a quiet, intimate sound that only you and your immediate family would ever truly hear or acknowledge. This is the moment. The light outside is growing stronger, and the sounds of the village are beginning to stir. A distant cock crow, the bleating of a goat, the low murmur of voices. You make your way to the doorway, or perhaps to an open window, if your home is fortunate enough to possess one, though most peasant dwellings are not so grand. You stand at the threshold, holding the pot, and take a deep breath. This is not a task performed in shame or secrecy, but with a certain practical efficiency, a necessary emptying before the day truly begins. Then, the cry. It echoes through the narrow, winding streets, passed from one household to another like a morning greeting, a rhythmic chant that signals the commencement of the day's most public act of personal hygiene. Guard thu. It means, quite literally, mind the water, but everyone understands its true meaning. Look out below. Here comes the night's waste. The sound of the words themselves is a blend of warning and resignation, a collective acknowledgement of the shared reality. You hear it from your neighbors, a call and response that weaves through the waking town. And then you too might utter the familiar phrase, your voice a little gravelly from sleep, a little lost in the cacophony. With a practiced motion, a swift tilt of the wrist, the contents of the chamber pot arc out into the street. There is a distinct splashing sound, a liquid percussion against the cobblestones or the churned earth, followed by a brief gurgling trickle as the stream disperses. It is a moment of release, both for the pot and for the lingering sense of confinement it represented. The street below is not just a path for travel. It is the village's unofficial open-air sewer system. Overturned chamber pots are a common sight, their interiors still glistening with residual moisture. The sun, now higher, begins to warm the street, and with that warmth comes the inevitable effluvium. The air becomes a complex tapestry of smells, the fresh, sharp tang of morning dew mixing with the sour notes of stale urine, the heavy earthy scent of animal dung, and the faint, lingering aroma of kitchen scraps tossed out alongside the liquid waste. It is a pervasive, ever-present olfactory backdrop to daily life. To navigate this landscape, to traverse the very arteries of your village, you rely on a particular piece of footwear, the pattens. These are not shoes in the modern sense, but rather wooden overshoes, raised platforms strapped over your regular leather shoes or simple cloth wraps. They lift you, quite literally, above the fray, providing a vital few inches of separation from the mire. As you step out, the thick wooden soles make a dull, rhythmic thud against the uneven ground. Each step is a conscious act, a careful placement to avoid slipping on a particularly slick patch of mud and waste. The sound of the pattens is a constant companion on the streets, a percussive reminder of the ground beneath your feet, a gentle, insistent beat that accompanies the day's journey. The feeling of walking in pattens is unique. There's a slight awkwardness, a need for balance, but also a sense of protection. The wood is unyielding, firm beneath your feet, and the raised height gives you a subtle advantage, a sense of being slightly elevated above the common muck. You learn to read the street, to anticipate the deeper puddles, the more treacherous stretches. The wooden platforms become an extension of your body, a necessary shield against the unseen, unspeakable things that dwell on the ground. The occasional splash, the faint, damp spray that might reach your lower garments, is a minor inconvenience, easily brushed off, quickly forgotten amidst the day's tasks. This morning ritual, the emptying of the pot, the careful navigation of the streets, is not a burden but a simple, straightforward reality, a testament to the ingeniousness of adapting to a world without flush, without drains, without the silent, is visible conduits of modern sanitation. It is a world where every morning brings a tangible reminder of the night, and every step outside is a journey through the very essence of human and animal life. The sounds of the splashing, the calls of Garde Teniale, the thud of the patent Cindy. These are the soundscape of a medieval dawn, a symphony of survival and adaptation, a gentle lullaby to the waking world. As the day wears on, the sun climbs higher, and the faint, persistent itch begins. It's a familiar sensation, one that has been with you for as long as you can remember, a constant, low-level hum beneath your scalp, along your arms, in the folds of your clothing. This is the kingdom of lice, a realm that knows no boundaries of wealth, status, or piety. From the lowliest peasant to the mightiest king, everyone hosts these tiny, tireless companions. They are not merely an inconvenience. They are an integral, inescapable part of life in the Middle Ages, a silent, bustling population that moves with you, feeds on you, and forms a peculiar, almost symbiotic relationship with your very existence. You feel them most keenly in the quiet moments, when your hands are still, when your mind is not consumed by labor. A subtle prickle, a delicate crawl, a fleeting, sharp bite that makes you instinctively reach up to scratch. Your fingers, calloused from work, become adept at navigating the landscape of your hair, searching for the telltale bumps, the tiny elusive forms. The wool tunic you wear, thick and unwashed for months, perhaps years, provides the perfect habitat. Its coarse fibers offer countless nooks and crannies for these creatures to hide, to lay their eggs, to multiply in peaceful, undisturbed abundance. The warmth of your body, the rich supply of sustenance, The very fabric of your life provides them with everything they need to thrive. The sensation is not one of intense pain, but a persistent, maddening irritation. It's a constant reminder of their presence, a subtle hum beneath the surface of your skin. You might find yourself unconsciously scratching, your nails raking gently across your scalp, providing a momentary, satisfying relief before the itch inevitably returns, a testament to the sheer numbers of these tiny inhabitants. It is a feeling of being perpetually observed, of having a secret, bustling world living just beneath the surface of your own. And it is not a solitary experience. Delousing, the act of picking lice, is often a communal activity, a quiet, intimate ritual shared among family members or close friends. You might sit by the fire in the evening, the flickering light casting long, dancing shadows, your head gently resting in a loved one's lap. Their fingers, nimble and practiced, would methodically work through your hair, separating strands, searching for the telltale dark specks. It's a moment of quiet connection, of shared humanity, a task performed with an almost meditative focus. When a louse is found, there is a small, almost inaudible sound as it is caught between two fingernails and pressed. A tiny, faint pop, a minuscule crack that signals the end of one life in this teeming kingdom. This sound, repeated countless times throughout a lifetime, becomes another subtle part of the soundscape of your existence. It's a sound of small victories, of momentary relief, a testament to the constant battle waged against these unseen invaders. The feeling of that tiny pop, the slight pressure against your fingertips, is a visceral, tactile connection to this intimate, unsettling reality. For those of higher status, the challenge was often amplified by fashion. Thick, elaborate wigs, powdered and perfumed, were not just a statement of wealth, but also a luxurious, multi-story dwelling for lice. Imagine the sensation of a heavy artificial mane, never truly cleaned, providing an even more expansive and protected environment for these creatures to flourish. The constant, subtle movement of the wig, the added warmth, a difficulty of thorough inspection find, all contributed to making these fashionable accessories true palaces for lice. The unwashed wool of your outerwear, the linen shift beneath, the very fabric of your daily life, all contribute to this pervasive reality. The smell of unwashed hair, of bodies that rarely meet water, might also be subtly intertwined with the faint, musky scent of a multitude of tiny living creatures. It's a smell that is not consciously registered as unpleasant, but rather as simply of human, a natural emanation of life itself. The constant, low-level irritation, the rhythmic scratching, the tiny, almost silent pops and tea. These are the subtle, persistent sensations of living in the kingdom of lice, a reality that binds everyone together, a shared, intimate connection to the natural world, even if that connection is often a little itchy. It's a quiet, busy world that never truly sleeps, a constant hum of life beneath the surface, a gentle, rhythmic presence that eventually fades into the background, becoming just another part of the familiar, comforting hum of existence. The inner itself is a constant companion, a rich, complex tapestry of aromas that shifts and changes with the wind, the time of day, and the activities of the bustling town. It is a world saturated with scent, a powerful, pervasive force that shapes your experience of the medieval city. There is the earthy tang of mud and animal dung, the sharp, metallic note of a nearby blacksmith, the sweet, cloying smell of rotting refuse, and the ever-present, acrid scent of wood smoke. This is the baseline, the fundamental layer of the city's olfactory identity, a powerful, undeniable presence that penetrates every corner, every garment, every breath. And then there is the counter-offensive. To navigate this overwhelming landscape of odors, to create a small personal bubble of respite, you turn to the pomander. This is not merely a decorative object. It is a vital tool for survival, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of sensory assault. Imagine a small, intricately crafted metal ball, perhaps fashioned from silver or brass, pierced with delicate patterns of tiny holes. It hangs from a chain, a precious personal item that is both functional and a subtle statement of status. Inside this miniature sphere, a carefully selected blend of powerful aromatics resides. Dried rose petals, their scent still faintly sweet, mingle with the sharp, spicy warmth of cloves and cinnamon. Fragrant nutmeg, precious and exotic, contributes its rich, musky notes. Perhaps there is even a hint of true musk, a deeply animalistic, earthy scent, or ambergris, a rare and prized substance from the ocean, lending its complex marine, sweet aroma. These are not subtle perfumes. They are concentrated, potent essences, designed to deliver a powerful olfactory punch. As you walk through the narrow, crowded streets, the air thick with the combined effluvium of human and animal life, of refuse and industry, you reach for your pomander. With a practiced motion, you lift the cool, metallic sphere to your nose. The metal itself is smooth, perhaps a little warm from your skin, or cool from the ambient air, a tangible object of comfort in a world of invisible assaults. You inhale deeply, drawing in the concentrated burst of fragrance. The immediate sensation is one of powerful, almost overwhelming sweetness, a sudden flood of rose and spice that momentarily eclipses the surrounding stench. This is the art of olfactory layering. On the surface, you perceive the bright, almost aggressive floral and spicy notes of the pomander. Its beautiful, carefully curated scent, a testament to the perfumer's skill and the value of the ingredients. But beneath this fragrant veneer, the underlying city smells do not truly disappear. They are merely pushed into the background, a muffled, persistent hum that still registers in the deeper recesses of your awareness. It's a constant, subtle conflict, a battle waged in your nose between the desired and the unavoidable. You might carry the pomander always, a discreet companion, or perhaps bring it out only when passing particularly notorious areas. The tannery with its pungent, chemical reek, the butcher's shop with its metallic tang of blood and offal, the overflowing gutters with their putrid, sickly, sweet decay. Each time, the ritual is the same, the cold metal against your skin, the deep inhale, the temporary, blissful immersion in a world of carefully constructed beauty. Beyond the personal pomander, other masking scents permeate the wealthier homes and public spaces. Dried herbs and fragrant rushes, as mentioned earlier, are strewn across floors, releasing their subtle aromas when trodden upon. Incense burns in churches and grand halls, its smoky, resinous scent rising in plumes, attempting to purify the air and elevate the spirit. But even these larger-scale efforts are part of the same delicate balance, the same constant negotiation with the pervasive stench of the age. The feeling is one of a constant subtle tension. The pleasant, cultivated scent of your pomander provides a psychological anchor, a small, controlled environment in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming to the senses. It's a reminder of beauty, of refinement, of the human desire to impose order and pleasantness upon a raw, often harsh reality. The cool metal, the potent aroma, the brief, sweet escape, fawi. These are the sensory experiences of a world that lives intimately with its own effluvium and finds ingenious ways to make it, if not pleasant, then at least endurable. The conflict of sense, the beautiful over the grotesque, becomes a gentle, fascinating dance, a quiet, insistent reminder of the complex sensory world you inhabit. You might think that while personal hygiene was lacking, at least when you were sick or injured, someone would try to keep things clean. You would be wrong. Step into the world of medieval medicine, and you'll find a level of filth that would make a modern operating room staff faint on the spot. Imagine this. You've fallen, perhaps from a rickety cart or a ladder, and you've got a deep gash on your arm. The local barber surgeon, a man who usually cuts hair and shaves beards, is called. He arrives, probably smelling of stale beer and unwashed wool, his hands already stained from his last patient turned. Perhaps a tooth extraction, or a simple bloodletting. There's no hurried washing of hands, no sterile gloves, no antiseptic spray. Those concepts are centuries away, residing in a future that would seem like pure magic. Instead, he pulls out his tools. They are not gleaming stainless steel. Oh no, they are likely made of iron, perhaps a bit rusty, and certainly caked with dried blood and tissue from the last person he helped. This isn't negligence. It is simply the way things are. Germs are invisible, unknown entities. The idea that tiny, unseen things could cause disease is as alien as the idea of flying to the moon. So, he takes his rusty lancet, the very same one he used to open a boil on a peasant's back yesterday, and he begins to examine your wound. The air around you is thick with the scent of unwashed bodies, damp earth, and perhaps a faint, sweetish smell of decay. You might wince, not just from the pain of your injury, but from the chill of the uncleaned metal against your skin, and the vague, unsettling feeling that something unseen is being transferred. Bloodletting, for instance, is a common cure. All feeling sluggish. Let some blood. Got a fever. Let some blood. Had a bad dream. You guessed it. Let some blood. The instruments used for this procedure are simply wiped on a rag, if at all, between patients. The same bowl might collect the dark, viscous fluid from dozens of different arms. The thought of cross-contamination doesn't exist. It is not a concern because the mechanism of disease transmission is utterly misunderstood. Now for your wound. What does the barber surgeon propose? Perhaps a poultice, but not a clean, sterile one. Oh no. He might suggest a concoction of spiderwebs, believed to have properties that would staunch bleeding. You can almost feel the delicate, gusty strands adhering to your torn flesh, perhaps bringing with them tiny, unseen creatures from the corners of the hut. Or, if spiderwebs are scarce, perhaps some fresh mud from the riverbank, or even, believe it or not, animal dung. Yes, animal feces porty, warm, moist, and teeming with bacteria for to applied directly to an open wound. The logic. It is natural. It comes from the earth. It must have healing properties. The sticky, earthy paste is spread over your skin, and you can feel the gritty particles pressing into the raw edges of your injury. The smell, a mix of damp earth and something distinctly bovine, fills your nostrils, a pungent promise of healing. And then there's the concept of laudable pus. This is perhaps one of the most horrifying aspects of medieval wound care. If your wound began to ooze with thick, creamy, yellowish, white pus, it wasn't seen as a sign of infection, but rather as a good sign. It meant the wound was cleansing itself, that the body was expelling the bad humors and on its way to recovery. The more pus, the better in their minds. So instead of cleaning the pus away, it might be encouraged, allowed to build up, forming a malodorous, festering pool beneath the bandages. You can almost feel the warm, throbbing sensation of the infected tissue, the dull ache that spreads through your limb, and the constant, sweet, sickly scent that accompanies such a process. The bandages, if you even have them, are likely made from unwashed linen scraps, soaked through with discharge, becoming stiff and crusty, adhering to the wound itself. When they are finally peeled away, the pain is excruciating, and the sight beneath is a testament to the body's incredible, often futile, fight against overwhelming odds. The acceptance of this process, the belief that it was good, meant that countless lives were lost to what we now know as preventable infections. The very remedies were often the cause of further suffering, a grim irony in a world grappling blindly with the mysteries of the human body. Now, despite the pervasive fear of water and the general aversion to full body washing, there were public bathhouses. These weren't the pristine, individual cubicles of a modern spa. Oh no, these were known as stews, and the experience was communal, to say the least. Imagine stepping into a large, steamy room. The air is thick, humid, and heavy with a complex blend of smells. There's the warmth of the water, yes, but also the pungent aroma of many unwashed bodies, the faint tang of stale food, and an underlying, indescribable musk that clings to everything. The light is dim, perhaps filtering through a grimy window or cast by a few flickering candles, creating long, dancing shadows on the stone walls. You see a large, wooden tub, perhaps several of them, capable of holding multiple people at once. The water within is far from clear. It is a murky, opaque brown with a visible film of grease and grime floating on the surface. This water, you understand, has been used by many people before you. How many? You don't ask. You don't want to know. The idea of fresh, clean water for each bather is a luxury that simply does not exist. The water is heated, often by stones dropped into it, or by a fire beneath the tub, making it warm and inviting, a rare comfort in a cold world. But with that warmth comes the undeniable truth of its shared history. You carefully lower yourself into the communal tub. The water warm against your skin is also thick and almost viscous. You can feel the particles suspended in it, the faint slimminess of the collective human residue. It is an odd sensation to me, the comfort of the heat combined with the unsettling knowledge of what you are sharing. As you sit, you might find yourself shoulder to shoulder with strangers, perhaps a merchant, a craftsman, or even a traveling friar. Modesty is a luxury in these environments, stripped away by necessity and the sheer physicality of the space. And it is not just for bathing. Oh no, people often brought food and drink into the bathhouse. You might see someone gnawing on a piece of bread, perhaps a hunk of cheese, or sipping from a tankard of ale, all while submerged in the very same water that everyone else is bathing in. Crumbs might float on the surface, mingling with the grease and the occasional stray hair. The sounds are a mix of splashing conversation, the clinking of tankards, and the occasional burp or cough echoing in the steamy chamber. It is a social hub, a place to relax, conduct business, and even engage in less savory activities, all within the confines of that shared murky liquid. The communal bathhouse, far from being a place of purification, was in many ways a breeding ground. A breeding ground for conversation, yes, but also for bacteria, for viruses, for parasites. It was a place of intense fluid exchange, where sweat, skin cells, bodily oils, and whatever else was clinging to people were all released into the shared bath. You might emerge feeling physically warmer and perhaps a little softer, but certainly not clean by modern standards. The purpose wasn't necessarily sanitation as we understand it, but rather a combination of warmth, relaxation, and social interaction. It was a sensory overload tune. The humid air, the mixed smells, the dim light, the sounds of many voices, and the peculiar tactile sensation of that shared living water. It was a brief escape from the cold, hard realities of medieval life, but an escape that came with its own unique set of biological compromises. You accepted it because it was the only option, a necessary indulgence in a world that offered few comforts. As the day finally draws to a close and the last sliver of weak sunlight disappears behind the thatched roof, you prepare for the final act of your medieval day. Sleep. But even here, in the supposed sanctuary of your bed, the battle against the pervasive hygiene standards continues. Your bed is not a pristine, freshly laundered haven. Oh no, it is, in itself, a micro-ecosystem, a miniature world teeming with life, much of it unseen, but certainly felt. Your mattress is likely a simple sack filled with straw or dried leaves. As you lie down, you can hear the rustling and crackling of the dry plant matter beneath you, a constant gentle symphony of your sleeping arrangements. This straw, however, is not changed frequently. It becomes a cozy home for tiny creatures that thrive in the warmth and darkness. Bedbugs, small, reddish, brown insects, lie in wait in the seams of the mattress, in the cracks of the wooden bed frame, ready to emerge in the dead of night. You can almost feel their delicate, almost imperceptible crawl across your skin, the faint prickle of their bites, a constant, irritating companion through the long hours of darkness. Fleas, too, are ever present, jumping from the straw, from your clothes, from the animals that often share your dwelling, seeking a warm host. The occasional sharp itch, a sudden startle in the night, is a common occurrence, a reminder of the bustling life that shares your sleeping space. The air in your small, windowless hut is still. It carries the faint, lingering scent of the day's fire, a mix of wood smoke and the general musk of human habitation. Dust motes danced in the last rays of moonlight that might penetrate a crack in the wall, tiny specks of the accumulated dirt and debris of your life. You pull your rough wool blanket up to your chin, feeling its scratchy texture against your skin, a familiar discomfort that has become a part of your existence. And yet, despite all of this sivdy the ever-present soot, the lingering odors, the unseen creatures that share your bed, the constant low thrum of discomfort the V, you find a strange, almost profound peace. This is your normal. This is the world you were born into, the only one you know, Your body has adapted, your immune system honed by constant exposure, a testament to the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Your mind has built its own psychological defenses, a quiet acceptance of what simply is. The sounds of the night begin to settle around you, perhaps the distant hoot of an owl, the gentle creak of the wooden hut settling, or the soft chirping of crickets outside. Inside, you might hear the subtle rustling of straw as you shift, the almost inaudible scuttling of a mouse in the corner, or the faint, almost rhythmic buzz of an insect. These are the lullabies of the medieval night, the soundtrack to a life lived in intimate contact with the natural world, even its less pleasant aspects. You close your eyes. The warmth of your body nestled into the straw feels comforting. The persistent itch of a flea or a bedbug becomes a dull background sensation, easily ignored as the edges of wakefulness begin to blur. You are tired, deeply, physically tired from a day of relentless labor, and that exhaustion pulls you down into the quiet depths of sleep. This dirty comfort is your reality. It is not a modern cleanliness, but a medieval acceptance. In the faint glow of a dying ember, or the soft, silvery light of the moon, you find rest. You drift, a tiny speck in the vast tapestry of history, surrounded by the very elements that defined your existence. Your ancestors for generations found peace in these very same conditions. They learned to filter out the discomfort, to embrace the quiet hum of life around them, and to surrender to the restorative power of sleep. So, let the rustling of the straw be your gentle whisper. Let the faint sounds of the night be your soothing melody. Let the deep, profound tiredness in your bones pull you deeper into your mattress, deeper into the quietude. You have endured a day, a lifetime of medieval hygiene. Now it is time to rest. Feel the weight of your eyelids, the slow, steady rhythm of your breath. Let your thoughts soften and dissolve. Drift now into the quiet, dark embrace of sleep. Let the history fade. Let the present gently recede. Just breathe and sleep deeply. Peacefully, you are safe now. Just sleep